Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film Captain America, the First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
I'm Pete Wright, and I lament not having a bunch of lightweight, prop-heavy stuff.
Today we're talking about minute 124, which begins with Steve throwing stronger and stronger punches and ends with the date for the Avengers. Holy cow! We are there. Back on the show, Eric Deutsch. Hello, Eric.
Hi, I'm happy to have actual footage to talk about.
No more names. Oh, that's right. This is our post-credit sequence. Do you remember when you saw Iron Man, did you know there was a post-credit sequence? Did you stay?
I did not know there was a post-credit sequence, but I did stay because I usually like watching all the credits anyway.
Yeah.
And so when Sam Jackson came on and said what his name was, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. They're bringing in Nick Fury. And when he said the words, the Avengers Initiative, I went, oh, because that was a big surprise to me. And boy, was I excited.
All right. So we have had 5-ish post-credit sequences, technically 4 and a pre-credit sequence in The Incredible Hulk. Do you have a favorite? So in this one, it's Steve boxing and Nick comes in to talk to him. In Thor, it was Nick or Eric coming down to the basement of the S.H.I.E.L.D. facility to talk to Nick about the Tesseract and, of course, reveal that Loki is there, mind controlling him. Iron Man 2, of course, it's the hammer out in the desert from Thor, and in the Incredible Hulk, it is Tony talking to General Ross about their team. Any favorites?
Well, I mean, the first one obviously stands out just because you didn't know, now it's become almost a self-parody. You got to wait for the, Marvel's going to have the post-credit scene. So
yeah, it
was a surprise. You didn't know there even was one. What it meant that we're not just getting an Iron Man movie, they're going to make Avengers movies was incredible. So, I mean, that definitely is my favorite. But I really like the Iron Man 2 one also because by that time, I'm sure I knew that they were making a Thor movie, but it was still so new to the post-credit scenes. You didn't really know that it was a lot of these post-credit scenes were being used to set up future movies. So the whole, sir, we found it, pull out reveal of the hammer. I'm really excited. Like, oh, cool, right. We're getting a Thor movie. It made it real.
At that point, I think, too, there was this little piece, though, of like uncertainty. Like they're teasing this movie, but I've seen movies where they tease other things and those movies never get made. I think I remember early on just really wondering or thinking probably out loud to somebody, man, it's going to suck if they never make that Thor movie. Man, it's going to suck if they're not able to, if people don't trust it because all they remember is the other Thor movie that was so bad or the Hulk movie with the Thor in it, like the TV stuff. Yeah. Like, it's going to suck. And so I think in these phase 1 pieces, it was really still that bit of uncertainty and risk. And that kind of makes this one unique because it not only demonstrates that, yes, we're coming back, but here's the trailer. Like, we're done.
Right.
Well, I was going to ask this. So the beginning of this is sort of your typical post-credit scene with them hitting the punching bag and then Nick Fury coming and talking to him. But the rest is just a trailer.
Right.
Now, No Way Home used Multiverse of Madness as trailer as a post-credit scene. Are these the only 2 MCU movies to do that?
I want to say, I feel like there was one more, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It's definitely, I know that when I saw essentially the Multiverse of Madness trailer, I was a little disappointed. I'm like, oh, we're just going to see the whole trailer of that then, huh?
So, okay, so according to Marvel Cinematic Universe Wiki, there are 4, and only those 2 of them are listed as theatrical. It's Captain America doing the Avengers and No Way Home doing Doctor Strange. The Defenders featured the teaser trailer for The Punisher as its post-credit sequence of the final episode, and Iron Fist used the teaser trailer for the 3rd season of Daredevil at the end of its final episode. But I'm not seeing anything else as a trailer for post-credit sequence in the films.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everybody knows that everything that is printed on the Marvel Cinematic Universe fandom wiki is accurate and complete.
Of course it is.
We've taken that as gospel.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we have here, which we also had in Iron Man 2, once you watch that next movie, you realize, oh, I'm actually kind of watching what they call a cut down scene, where it's actually just a scene from the next movie that they've edited down to tease you with it. Iron Man 2, of course, it's Coulson finding Thor's hammer out in the desert of New Mexico, and we see that in the middle of the film. Here, it's it's Steve in the boxing ring, or not in the boxing ring, but he's at a boxing club and he's by himself and he's hitting a punching bag. In Avengers, it's a much longer scene, and Steve is having, he's remembering all of his time, just everything that has gone on, and he's getting, I guess you could say, angrier and angrier as he's hitting the punching bag until he knocks it off, and then the gag is revealed. He's got a whole row of punching bags that he's got ready to go as he's doing this. And we kind of miss all of that here. It's just him punching faster until he punches it across the way, and then Nick comes in and they have a very abbreviated version of their conversation. In the scope of post-credit sequences, I don't know. I mean, it makes sense. It's definitely something that's kind of setting us up. But I also feel like it's a little bit of a letdown when you see the next film and you're like, oh, I just am watching a piece of this. I already saw this at the end of the last movie. Do either of you feel that way?
You were let down by that?
Well, don't you feel like you want the post-credit sequences to be special? Like Thor, like we never see the bit with Eric and Nick in the basement of the S.H.I.E.L.D. facility and the whole reveal with Loki. Like that's all something. I know probably Joss Whedon shot it when he was making the Avengers and they put it on the end there, but we don't ever see that in the Avengers.
That's interesting. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me because I like it as a handoff, right? It's a handoff to the next movie, and because we get the trailer for the next movie, I just remember being so excited about that I wasn't really thinking about the fact that this was going to be cut, because how would I have known that this was going to be cut from the next movie? And then when we get it from the next movie, it was, time passes, and now it's, a year more has gone by, and I don't really remember all of it that well. So I just feel like in the context of how these things were released for me, there was no reason for me to begrudge, cutting down this sequence. And the fact that I get more of it in the movie is so much the better.
What do you think, Eric?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, I sort of feel like the way Pete does, that I was so excited about the making an Avengers movie that I was okay with it not being either just an original scene just for that, or that it was a chopped down scene. I mean, I think my issues with this is more that the trailer's just kind of lame.
So the second part of it, we haven't said, is very specifically just a trailer. Like as soon as we get the line from Fury saying, when Steve says, you're trying to recruit me, or try to recruit me to save the world, or what does he say?
He says, you have a mission for me, trying to get me back in the world. And then he says, trying to save it.
Trying to save it. Right. And then it cuts to just a whole bunch of shots. I mean, it's a trailer. We see the deck and the helicarrier. We see Nick Fury and Loki and helicopters and
Hawkeye,
everybody.
Arrow.
Right. Yeah. We just see everybody, and it's quick cuts. And it's not even Alan Silvestri music as far as I can tell. Like the music just is
it's not
something.
The music.
No, it's very weird seeing all these images without Silvestri now. Like I watched this and I'm like, it just feels like they're cutting something together real fast just to throw on here. It's strange. So you didn't like this. You don't like this trailer portion of it, Eric?
No, I think to your point about the music, it sounds like some generic thing you would pull off of some, audio database somewhere. On the one hand, while it gives nothing away, which is good, I hate trailers that give too much away. On the other hand, it comes across as if they didn't have much footage, frankly, to choose from. Because the shots are really boring, generic shots. A lot of shots of people's backs, and there's a shot of like the hut that Banner's in at the beginning of the movie. I don't know what that's adding at all. Right. And all of that, though, the worst thing to me, the tagline, "Some assembly required," is just. Someone must have been able in that multi-billion dollar corporation to come up with a better tagline than that, because that's really, really lame.
I struggle with this, you guys, because I absolutely, like, I say it out loud, I see it on screen, and I agree, it's so stupid. But I was doped up on the jazz for this thing when it came out. Like, I have to imagine when I was sitting in the theater, I thought that was the smartest thing that they could ever have done because I was so looking forward to this movie. Like, I have to think that they nailed it for what it was, which was to get me excited to see the movie. And they showed me they jammed all the faces that I wanted to see in the movie. Like and explodey things. Like that's sort of fine. So for its purpose, like I forgive it a little bit. Its monstrosity that it has become now when you watch it with the gift of hindsight.
It's interesting, like looking at the posters and stuff, because the posters just say Assemble 2012, or like the teaser poster that came out.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot better because, the whole thing, it ties into the whole Avengers Assemble thing. The Some Assembly Required, it does feel almost too cheeky for what they're doing. And so, I don't know, I'm kind of with you, Eric. I'm not a big fan of the silliness of what they're doing there. I have a question for both of you, though. I feel like by this point, we all knew. I'm trying to remember the timeline of when all this stuff was getting made. And I feel like this may have been the first time that any of us saw Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. Would that make sense? Like, would we have seen any other, I mean, maybe some behind the scenes things, but otherwise this might be the first time that we ever see him in the role. Am I correct in that?
Probably. I mean, what else would we have, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So that is something that when I look at this, I do think is interesting. The fact that, especially because, I mean, what we've been saying, you barely get to see anybody in this. Like the face shots are so quick cut that I think, you see him in there 2 or 3 times. And the one that stands out is the one where he's like taking his glasses off as kind of the moment. Otherwise, like we don't get much highlighting the fact that, hey, Hulk is a new guy, a new actor's playing him.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's pretty hand wavy. Like maybe you won't notice. Maybe we'll just forget that this used to be a different guy.
Yeah. I guess in the scope of post-credit sequences, I mean, yes, I think that there's a level of excitement of seeing them. Wow, they're finally able to do it. They're actually getting all of these pieces that they've been putting together since 2008 with the release of Iron Man. Here we are 4 years later, and they're finally able to build something where they're going to have all of these actors, all these characters in a movie together. And, there is something cool with that, despite the fact that this trailer is a little, all flash and little excitement.
I mean, I'm just excited about the whole idea that we've been waiting for so long. Like this felt like such a momentous culmination. Like I just remember, like you and I were probably still fighting about letting your inner child out of the closet, right? Under the stairs, Andy. Like this was just a thing. Like you don't want to get your hopes up, but your hopes are kind of up and you can't help it. And I was sort of living for that exuberance for a while.
No, I mean, it is cool to see them pulling it off, especially at this point, because, I mean, with Thor and Captain America were both 2011. It was a very busy period. And then Avengers coming out right after. The stories were they were shooting them kind of back to back. And I think we talked about this last season, how Jeremy Renner, the shots of him when like the reveal of him as Hawkeye in Thor when he's at the Shield compound, that was footage that those shots are shot in such a way where it entirely was possible that Joss Whedon shot those while they were on set just so they could throw them in there as a surprise, that the people on set may not have even known that was set up to be Hawkeye in that particular scene.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the way that they put it together and everything. Well, and that was another thing. Like, I think that they made some big deal about the fact that, Hawkeye was in Thor. It was like a press thing. Like, Hawkeye is popping up in Thor as a way to set things up for the Avengers, like to get people excited. And And then when you see it, it's like, oh, that's all you're going to give us of him. It was very funny. So Eric, so you were a reader of the Avengers, you said.
Absolutely.
Where, when you were reading Avengers, who was the core team?
It was Wasp, Cap, Thor, Captain Marvel, Black Knight, Hercules was there for a little bit. That horrible Dr. Druid was there for a bit. So it was that team in from like the 260s into like the 320s kind of.
I mean, do you have a preference? Like, do you like this team that they assembled for the film?
Yeah, because I really liked Cap and Thor as Avengers members. Those were the two that were part of the comic when I was reading it, so I was happy for them. I mean, Hawkeye and Iron Man were West Coast Avengers, which I didn't read, but of course, Iron Man being an original Avenger. Black Widow was long gone from the Avengers by the time I started reading it, and wasn't really a major character when I was reading Marvel comics, so I didn't really know much about her. The only one that really stood out was kind of Hulk, because, yes, he's an original Avenger, but he leaves in the second issue. And I mean, Hulk is pretty much always a lone character. He's really not a team guy, so that was sort of the one that kind of stood out, but I understand why they included him for the movies. I mean, he's one of Marvel's most recognizable characters. So, yeah, I was pleased with the lineup.
If you could change any of them, who would you put in, and who would you take out?
Well, it would have been cool for Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne to be original Avengers of the movie, since they were in the comics, and I'm a big fan of the Wasp character. Talking about many movies down the road, I really wish they had not taken Ultron as a Hank Pym invention and made it Tony Stark either. So I really would have liked them. I know he's looked at sort of kind of lame, and he's not the most powerful Avenger, but the Black Knight was one of my favorite Avengers characters. I was very happy to see the character of Dane Whitman at least appear in Eternals. I don't know if anything more is going to be done with that character, but I also know that he was too minor of a character to legitimately be in the first Avengers movie, though. So that's where I would stand with that.
I feel like they got to be doing something more with him based on the post-credit sequence there.
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah, even if he shows up in the Blade movie.
Right. It seems like in some capacity they're planning something at least, so I'm curious to see what they're going to do. Pete, what about you? I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Do you like this lineup?
Yeah, no, I like the lineup because it has gone ahead and cemented itself in my head as the MCU. Like, these are the characters of this model. And it makes the comics lineups just feel messy in hindsight, right? Like, I know when I'm reading a particular line, then I totally get into it. But because of the nature of the movies and how far between we have to wait between each movie, and how they build these characters and the structure of the films, it feels like a totally separate universe to me. So as much as I thought in the very beginning, and we talked about this, like it might have been a little bit of a strange pick to go with Iron Man as the first introduction to an Avenger. By the time we get to the Avengers and this trailer and seeing them together, he's already, the de facto sort of paterna of the team, and him and Cap, and knowing the kind of journey they have to go through together over the course of the movies, it's just exhilaration. I think they made the right choices to put them together.
I mean, I definitely agree. I like the characters. I kind of would love to see, and I feel like maybe if we do return to an Avengers film, it will be interesting to see if we do actually start changing things up. Because I feel like, as we got into Infinity War Endgame, it's hard to say, or actually Captain America Civil War, really, like once we hit that point, like who's an Avenger? Are they just all Avengers now?
Yes, everybody's an Avenger. You're an Avenger.
Where's the line? Like, this is something that, like, is Nick Fury considered an Avenger? Would you both say that he is or not?
I say no.
No.
Because why?
Well, because he's the member of the establishment. Like, he brought the Avengers together. He's not out there. He's the spy. Like, he's not out there fighting in the streets of New York City.
But he's kind of like I don't know. Yeah, I agree. But he's kind of like their, in some capacity, kind of a leader of them, wouldn't you say? I mean, he's kind of the one who's directing them as far as what they need to be doing.
Yeah, but if people are familiar with the comics, he's kind of more playing the role. There was a character, Henry Peter Gyrich, in the comics, who was like the government liaison to the Avengers. So there was a time they had a storyline where the Avengers had to answer to the U.S. government, and Henry Peter Gyrich, as the liaison, sort of could tell them what to do and what they couldn't do. He's kind of more playing that role. Like, he's not fighting with the Avengers in the streets. You know, he doesn't have powers. He doesn't have a suit of armor.
Neither do two of the Avengers.
True, but that is true. But Hawkeye is, quote unquote, the world's greatest archer, and Black Widow is, quote unquote, the world's greatest, I don't know, assassin. I'm not sure,
what their training was. Yeah.
So Nick Fury is maybe the world's greatest spy, but that's not really something you necessarily want on the front lines, though, of a battle.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's like him, Maria Hill, Phil Coulson. I guess I would say that they are liaison is the wrong word, but it's like they are Shield's. I mean, I guess I'll just use it. They are kind of Shield's Avengers liaisons, right? Like, they're the ones who, when it comes to Shield interacting with the Avengers, they are kind of the point people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's really it. They're Shield.
Well, I know, but it like, by the time we get to Civil War and the Infinity War and everything, it's like suddenly everybody's an Avenger. And I'm like, I don't know. I just like some people like, can I be one too? I've been helping all of this.
Yeah.
I helped stop.
I think that's a fair question. I'd like to be an Avenger. I would take up the mantle. That's not true. I totally would not do that.
All right. Last thoughts about this trailer. Is there a particular shot in here that really worked like the best for you?
In the trailer?
In this very brief bit that we have here, 2 hours and 4 minutes into Captain America. Is there something in this little tease that we have for the Avengers that is like the moment of this trailer for you?
Yes.
Okay, what is it for you?
But I don't want to take it if it's
all
also
right.
Eric.
Okay, Eric,
okay.
you go first.
I had two. I had Thor calling the lightning down, and Hawkeye with his bow and arrow.
Okay. I like those. They were not my pick. Mine was the final shot before Nick Fury, when the camera is sort of craning up a little bit on Moody, brooding Avengers sitting around the table, when they're all looking down and our focus is on Thor and everybody's real sad.
That's such a weird shot, though.
Such a weird shot.
Like, I look at that, I'm like, why are they showing the depressing Avengers in the trailer?
I know. But it's like that spirit of uncertainty, and there they are together. And the shot they can't give away in this particular trailer is the assembled trailer when we're going around them in the ruins of New York City as they finally learn to assemble, some.
Yeah.
And
some.
And become the Avengers fighting force, Hulk smash. Like, they can't show that shot. So they give us brooding sad shot. And I'm here for it. I was all over it.
All right. Yeah, for me, I mean, I guess I kind of like seeing Cap's new outfit.
You like seeing Thor's makeup treatment, man. Like,
there's something
come
for
on.
sure. Yeah. Not seeing those bleached eyebrows that we had to talk for a whole movie about.
Ooh.
That was definitely something. And, seeing Iron Man flying, I love the shots of Iron Man flying. I'll never get sick of that. So, I mean, I guess if anything, weirdly, the one shot that stands out to me is the shot of the cab when the explosions are going off on the bridge, and the cab flips to its side and the camera flips with it. That's a great shot in the film. And in all of this, like, weirdly, that's the one thing that really stands out to me is like, oh, they used a clip of that. Such a weird thing for them to kind of throw in, but it shows the action, I guess. So there it is.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, that's it for our post-credit sequence. I don't have anything else to say about it. It's going to get us excited for our next season. And we only have 1 minute left, and technically we only have 12 seconds left of this movie. So in tomorrow's episode, it's going to be a little bit of a crossover. It'll be a little bit of a hiatus. We're going to talk a little bit about, what we learned about this movie, our thoughts and feelings, and what we're excited about for next season. So it should be fun. So Eric, why don't you remind everybody again about your podcasts?
Sure. So we've got Escape from New York Minute, and we've got Flash Gordon Minute. And they are both podcasts that are completed, so they're both out there on all your favorite podcatchers. And you can still come chat with me and my co-hosts about them on our Facebook groups, Brains Library for Escape from New York Minute, and the Flash Gordon Minute Listeners Vortex.
Fantastic. Those links will be in the show notes. Everybody check those out. And Pete, thanks as always.
So we are coming back for 12 seconds tomorrow.
Hell yeah!
All right. I'll see you tomorrow. 12 seconds. See you tomorrow.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.